Dennis never imagined his simple act of kindness would lead to a day he'd never forget. It was the end of a long workday, one of those evenings when the world seemed to be in a hurry to get home. The roads were crowded, headlights flickered in the dimming light, and the sky glowed with the orange of a setting sun. For Dennis, the daily commute was just part of life. He worked far from home, but he didn't mind. He actually liked driving the open road, gave him time to decompress, to sing along to his favorite old rock songs and let his thoughts drift. But that evening, something pulled his attention sharply back to the present. Along the side of the road, just beyond the shoulder, a figure caught his eye. He was used to seeing hitchhikers, and, to be honest, he usually kept driving. There were too many stories out there. Some people said picking up a stranger could end badly. But as Dennis glanced at the young girl standing alone with her thumb out, he felt a tug of conscience he couldn't ignore. She couldn't have been more than 17 or 18, slim, pale-faced, her hair pulled back into a messy ponytail, a backpack slung over one shoulder. Cars zoomed by, none stopping. Dennis thought about his own teenage daughter, off at college now, and how he'd hoped someone would help her if she ever needed it. He slowed, pulled to the side, and rolled down the window. "Need a ride somewhere?" Dennis called, trying to keep his tone friendly but not too intrusive. The girl approached, her steps cautious. She glanced in the back seat before coming any closer, clearly wary, which Dennis admired. "I just need to get to the station," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Hop in," Dennis replied. "I'm heading that way." She slid into the passenger seat and closed the door. He offered a reassuring smile and set off. He tried to make small talk, as he always did. "I'm Dennis, by the way. What's your name?" "Harper," she replied, not looking up from her phone. It quickly became clear that Harper wasn't interested in chatting. Dennis asked a few more questions, trying to break the ice, but her replies were short, and she spent nearly the whole ride glued to her phone, typing quickly, her eyes darting nervously now and then to the window. He found her reticence odd. He'd always imagined hitchhikers to be talkative, eager to share stories. But Harper seemed closed off, nervous, and not just from the awkwardness of accepting a stranger's help. He wondered what her story was, but didn't press her. The drive dragged on in silence. Finally, they arrived at the train station. It was a large, bustling terminal in the heart of the city, filled with commuters, travelers, and the constant hum of announcements. Harper reached for the door without a word. "Are you going to be all right from here?" Dennis asked gently, not wanting to sound paternal but unable to hide his concern. She nodded, gave a tight smile, then stepped out and shut the door firmly behind her. "No thank you, not even a goodbye." Dennis sat for a moment, staring at the spot where she'd been, feeling unsettled. Had he done something wrong? Was she in some kind of trouble? He shook it off, started the engine, and drove home, his mind still circling the strange encounter. But as he pulled into his driveway, something on the floor of the passenger seat caught his eye. Harper's phone. She must have dropped it in her rush to get out. The irony struck him after all the time she'd spent on it. How could she have left it behind? He didn't hesitate. He turned the car around and sped back to the train station, hoping to catch her before she left. But by the time he arrived, Harper was nowhere to be seen. He searched the platforms, checked the shops, scanned the crowds, nothing. Frustrated and worried, Dennis finally gave up. He decided he'd turn the phone in to the police in the morning. But as he drove home again, his mind raced. Why had Harper been so distracted, so skittish? And why had she, of all things, forgotten her phone? That night, sleep didn't come easily. He tried watching television, flipping aimlessly through channels, but couldn't focus. The next morning, Harper's phone was the first thing he saw on the kitchen table. He'd charged it the night before, almost out of habit. Before taking it to the police, he made himself breakfast and turned on the news, just to catch up on the world. As he absently sipped his coffee and watched the morning news crawl by, his blood ran cold. There, on the screen, was Harper's photo. The anchor's voice was grave. "The parents of Harper Raines are pleading for their daughter's safe return. Harper, age 17, disappeared last night. Anyone with information." Dennis set down his coffee, heart pounding. She hadn't been heading home, she'd run away. Suddenly, her odd behavior, her silence, her nervous glances, it all made sense. He realized he was likely the last person to have seen her. The weight of that hit him hard. He stared at Harper's phone, now ominous in its ordinariness. He should have seen the signs. Guilt crept in. All he'd wanted was to help, but now he feared he'd only made things worse. He picked up the phone, thinking perhaps there was a way to help. When he turned it on, he found it was locked, but even so, new messages appeared on the lock screen. One message in particular caught his attention, making his skin crawl. "You should come to me. I know where to find you." The sender's name was unknown, but the words were unmistakably threatening. Dennis's mind raced. Harper hadn't just run away from home, someone was after her. Someone knew how to reach her. The anxiety in her voice, the way she kept looking over her shoulder, it all pointed to a bigger, darker story. There was no time to lose. Dennis grabbed his keys and rushed out. He started his search at the train station, hoping against hope that Harper would return, perhaps to look for her lost phone. The station was crowded, commuters and travelers milling about. He hurried from platform to platform, scanning faces, looking for a flash of that messy ponytail, the familiar backpack. Just as hope began to fade, he felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned, and there she was, Harper, looking even more scared than the day before. "Harper!" Dennis exclaimed, relief flooding him. "I've been looking for you. Are you all right?" She looked around nervously, biting her lip. "Do you have my phone?" she asked, her voice shaking. He fumbled in his pocket and handed it to her. She grabbed it with both hands, turning it on instantly, and for a split second, he saw a faint smile flicker across her face. But just as quickly, her fear returned. She glanced over her shoulder, eyes darting. Dennis put a gentle hand on her arm. "What's going on? You can trust me. Please, let me help." For a long moment, Harper hesitated, staring at the floor. Then, perhaps out of desperation, she nodded and motioned for him to follow her. They found a quiet corner near a deserted platform, away from the crowds. With her back against the wall, Harper took a shaky breath and began to talk. "Last night, I was at home with my parents. My uncle was visiting. I woke up thirsty and went downstairs. That's when I saw Himmy uncle breaking into my parents' safe." Her voice was barely above a whisper, her hands trembling. "I filmed him. I was going to call my parents, but he saw me. He started sending me messages, saying he'd hurt them if I told anyone or went to the police." Dennis felt a chill run down his spine. Harper's fear wasn't just of being found, it was for her family's safety. "I didn't know what to do," Harper continued. "I ran. I've been hiding, but he keeps texting me. He said he knows where I am. I was so scared, I just ran." Dennis put a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You did the right thing by running, but you can't do this alone. We need to go to the police. With the video you have, they can stop him before he does anything worse." Harper hesitated, her fear warring with hope. Dennis looked her in the eye. "You're not alone now. I'll help you, I promise." She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. Together, they hurried through the station, aiming for Dennis's car parked outside. But as they reached the exit, Harper suddenly stiffened and let out a gasp. "That's him," she whispered, pointing to a man weaving through the crowd, his gaze fixed on them. Dennis wasted no time. He guided Harper to his car, heart pounding, and they jumped in. As he pulled away from the curb, he glanced in the rearview mirror and saw a car following them. It was Harper's uncle. Dennis pressed down on the accelerator, weaving through traffic, his mind racing. He had to get them to safety, and the only safe place he could think of was the police station. He cut through side streets, did his best to lose the car behind them, and finally spotted the red brick station just ahead. Without a second thought, he swung into the lot, ignoring every posted sign, and parked right in front of the entrance. Two officers on duty shouted at him to move his car, but Harper sprang from the passenger seat, running toward them. "Help! That man, he's after me!" she cried, tears streaming down her face as she pointed back at her uncle's car. The officers, startled by the chaos, acted fast. They detained both Dennis and the man in the following car. Inside the station, as things became clear, Harper showed the police her video evidence. Her uncle was arrested for theft and making threats. After taking their statements and confirming Dennis's story, the officers released him. Later, the police returned Harper home. Her parents were overwhelmed with relief and gratitude, embracing their daughter and thanking Dennis with tears in their eyes. He insisted he was only doing what anyone should do, but as he drove home, Dennis felt a mix of emotions: relief, pride, and a lingering sense of humility. He'd started the night trying to do a simple good deed, and through it all, he'd learned that sometimes doing the right thing means trusting your gut, even when it leads you into the unknown. And sometimes, the people who need help the most are the ones who are least able to ask for it. That night, Dennis sat on his porch and watched the stars, reflecting on how a single act of kindness had led him into a world of fear, hope, and ultimately, redemption. In the end, he was just glad he'd stopped for that hitchhiking girl and stayed to help, even when things got complicated. Because sometimes, the smallest gesture can change everything for someone else, and for you.